Dina Scippa, welcome to About Progress.
So excited to be here.
We are going to be talking about something that a lot of women struggle with in my community. And I would actually put myself among them. I had a confusingly insecure year. I would say a year and a half ago, like a whole year, I just did not feel like myself and very in more of a place of insecurity and
Mm.
comparison that kind of shook me because I thought I had done so much work in this regard. And I'm still very interested in working on it and learning more from you. So let's talk about lack of confidence and why it is so common among us as women. What's been your experience?
I mean, exactly what you just shared. I cannot tell you. I don't even think there's a day that goes by that I don't speak to a woman who talks to me about the crisis of confidence that she's going through right now. And what I
Huh.
find is, like you said, it's pretty circumstantial. Some of us will think that, wow, I feel like I should have mastered this before. Look at my own brag book. I should be past this. Why is this happening? I often tell people, I don't think your confidence is like this fixed journey. You have to be able to
Mm,
give yourself grace and be able to move through it in the moments that are going to make you feel like a complete rock star. And others that just, you might be on a little shakier ground. I think
yeah.
at times where I find in my conversations with women, and I also, like you would put myself in the same category, is that it's just such a journey. And it could be influenced by so many factors externally: job, relationships, friendships, family dynamics, different transitions in life. But I think also there's a real shift that happens, I think, at different stages of our life, just internally,
Mm,
and where we might be seeing ourselves differently or questioning certain things we thought we knew to always be true. And so
yeah.
I oftentimes will tell women, don't expect yourself to reach a certain point and then it's like, can check that off the list. I mean, it's funny, I was just talking to some folks about this week, is that you have to be willing to reach and move through those low moments in order to take the lesson that it is giving you. Because what I've personally found is in the moments that I've felt the lowest in terms of my confidence, it's given me the best lessons that I needed to learn.
Oh, okay. I really liked hearing that.
Particularly, though, and I don't know if this resonates with you, I will speak personally, and I know this speaks for the women I work with, that I think in those low moments, and you can move through it, you can push past the discomfort, that more than confidence, I think you're building that sense of self trust, that you can move
Mm,
through those moments of difficulty and adversity. You come out on the other side. When I started coaching a couple of years ago, I thought that my goal and my focus was to help women achieve a goal, and that I was only a good coach if I was able to get them to that milestone. And the more I worked with women and the more I worked on this issue with myself, I realized the goal is just the cherry on top. Great. But who you're becoming in the process and what you're
yeah.
learning about yourself is just so much better. And that's the stuff that
Mm,
lasts.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is actually, I weirdly am going to ask you to define confidence.
Okay.
Because I think that may be part of the problem
Uh-huh.
is we just think it's this static arrival inside of us that we don't question things about ourselves, that we only see ourselves in a good light,
Uh-huh.
that we just can strut in a room and be ourselves. So this may be so weird, but what is confidence? I think I may have it wrong.
Well, I personally feel that my definition of confidence might run counter to what others may think it is. I
Mm-hmm.
think that, well, first of all, let me tell you where I got most fascinated by confidence in the first place.
Okay.
So I came across a statistic that says that a girl's confidence peaks at age 9.
Mm.
And that's what
Ah.
brought me through like an obsessive rabbit hole of like, why is this happening? Why are women
Mm-hmm.
why are girls before they reach double digits just falling off this cliff where they're questioning their worth, their insecurities are heightened, they're searching for validation and acceptance everywhere they can look. There can be patterns of people pleasing and constant striving for perfectionism and approval. And it creates just this vicious cycle, this chasm, if you will, that we're always trying to
Yeah.
fill. And
Mhm.
why it inspired me so much, I was fascinated by why is this such a block amongst so many of us? And it started with me because I know that I struggled with my confidence at a very young age. And just in terms of the way I saw myself, the way that I felt around people in certain rooms. It had a lot to do with the way my body was, the way I compared myself to others, and just in terms of everything, academic ability, athletic ability. It was just like the comparison trap was crazy high. And so I had this theory
Mhm.
as I started to unpack this trend, this idea. I said, this is really something here because if the confidence cliff that we're falling over is happening in our adolescent years, what's happening to us as we transition into our 20s, our 30s, our 40s? And what I often talk about is that there's this inner teenage girl that's still struggling to feel like
Yeah.
herself, to feel like this fully expressed, authentic version of who she is and how she shows up in the world. And what I find is that our confidence is oftentimes in direct proportion to what others think or what we
Mm.
think others are thinking. And
'Kay.
I think that confidence is really, there's not a one size fits all definition. I think it's how you define confidence. Because one of the things that is so remarkable to me is that one woman's confidence of feeling like she can be her like most incredible unapologetic self and she's extra and wears the craziest clothes and she is out there and loud and fierce. And then there's another woman who's introverted and doesn't really want a ton of attention, but she's just as confident. I think there's this
Mm.
misperception around confidence can only look one way, but I think
Yeah.
the quiet confidence is just as powerful as the word unapologetically fierce confidence that's strutting down a beach.
Well, I like that you painted that
Yeah.
difference because you're right. When I think of someone confident, I do think of the person who is the spotlight almost of the room.
Mm.
And that's not going to fit a lot of our own preferences or
Oh,
personalities. So,
no.
from what I'm pulling from you, and I love that you're like, yeah, it's the definition is going to be different for each of us, and the definition is going to be based in what does it feel like when I'm myself and when I'm owning
Mhm.
who that self is. Like I'm
Yeah.
owning that I can be quieter, or I like to be creative, or I like to be loud, like whatever it is, we're owning it. And it's separate from how we perceive other people seeing us. Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's such freedom when we reach a point where we give ourselves permission to show up as we truly feel is in alignment with who we are. I think for so long, there's so much that we give priority to about this is how I should show up. This is how others expect me to be in these rooms.
Mm.
And there's this weird shape shifting thing that happens. Early on in my career, I remember thinking I had to show up in a certain way and project this level of confidence to be taken seriously. But if I was being honest, that didn't really feel like me. And
Yeah.
so I think it can take some time to reach a point where you feel authentically connected with the truth of who
Mm.
you are and how you express yourself. And I think sometimes people don't give themselves the grace to get there. That they just want to figure it out and be done with it. And there's so much, like I said, in that becoming that you're learning more about yourself. You're learning what you like and what you don't
Mm.
like, and what you want and what you don't want. And I would just say that in defining your unique type of confidence, it has everything to do with getting clear about the things that you do want that matter most to you, not just
Okay.
because you've been told that they're supposed to matter to you. And that's one of the biggest things that I hear from women when they come to me with their struggles with confidence. And honestly, they're a little embarrassed to say it, but some of them don't even know what they want. They've been so
Hmm.
used to being this version of themselves that everyone expects them to do in the roles of wife or partner or mom or ex job, daughter, cousin, sister, all of these things. And what I notice, and I had this experience myself, is it becomes almost as natural as breathing to abandon
Mhm.
yourself. To
Oh,
to
yeah.
just like it's so much easier to be what this person wants or say you like something because this person likes it and you just want to go with the flow and keep the peace, sure. But years and years of that happening creates one thing, and that's resentment.
I think we all know what that feels like.
All too well.
Does not, yeah, it does not feel good. Does not feel good. Okay, so I'm looking
Yeah.
at confidence is, as you said, it's a process. It's not an arrival, it's a process. And it's almost like you're on this ongoing process of building this proverbial house of confidence. And it's built on a foundation though. So like
Mhm.
the house can change over time. Like maybe you decide I want this to look different. I want this to feel different. Or right now it's a small house or right now it's a really big house depending on where you are in your confidence. But the foundation is having a sense of who you are, knowing what you want, trusting in yourself, living authentically. Is there anything else that you would add to that foundation that women should be focused on making sure they're building first?
Mm. I think wrapped up in that, and it speaks to a lot of the points that you just touched on. I think it's about leaning into the idea that your voice and your opinions matter
Oh, mm,
because oftentimes, and I know I'm included in this as well, is that there is this story normally narrated by our inner critic that every time we have a thought, be it one that we want to share in a boardroom or at home or on social media, and we have this nagging inner critic saying, don't do that. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And those
yeah,
micro moments that chip away at the confidence, even if it's a micro ounce of the confidence that you have to share something, you're entering into a stage of self censorship because you're afraid of how it's going to be perceived. And so I would say at the
mm,
foundation of all of this with confidence, all the ingredients, so to speak, that you just shared are super important for the foundation. But I think also being able to get comfortable with your voice, know that what you have to share matters, and to
mm.
not be afraid to share what's on your heart for fear of any type of reprisal or perceived reprisal, right?
That's really resonating with me.
Mm.
If confidence peaks at 9 for a lot of women, which is so sad.
It's devastating.
Yeah, it really is. That's devastating to think about. We want to obviously move past that. So I want to look at this more like if we're going as a journey, it's like
Mhm.
a series of peaks. We're going to have our peaks, we're going to have our valleys with confidence. So, what can someone know ahead, but also in the moment, contributes to the valleys? Like
Mhm.
what leads to those low moments so that they can just be more aware of them instead of just staying there. Like to just be
Absolutely.
able to say, this is what's going on instead of being like, well, I'm the worst and I'm just going to stay here.
It's a great question. And that very question is probably the most important question that someone needs to ask themselves is how do we normalize the valleys? Because we're
Mm,
not just going to coast up here all the time. When you think about the first cliff that we fall over in terms of our confidence, what I've read in the research is that between the ages of 10 to 13, a girl's confidence drops by about 30%. And then between 13 to 17, it drops around another 40 to 50%, which is
mm,
just
mm.
one of the most depressing statistics. And what's contributing to those dips in confidence is a girl is at in those critical teenage years looking for that sense of belonging. She's looking for confirmation that she's similar to everyone else, that she can be accepted in who she is, that the things that she likes are shared by others. We're hardwired for connection. And so those teenage years can be particularly jarring if we're thinking
Yeah.
about where those foundational elements of confidence are built. But there's a very real reason as to why it's happening. Your brain is developing in a certain
Hmm.
way at that critical developmental stage where the sense of your development is looking for that confirmation. But the valleys of like those dips in confidence as you progress in your life, for whatever reason that they're attributed to, I think what's important to remember is going through certain emotional dips is normal. I've worked a lot in the gender equality and female empowerment space on a global level. I think what I find the most interesting globally, this is a global phenomenon, is that women aren't oftentimes given the space to unravel, to fall apart, to not have it all together, to not be pleasing to those around them.
Mm,
It's inconvenient. And I think what's worse is that so many people, be it a partner or family members or community, because of the discomfort of this low moment, whatever's happening, many times people will feel this compulsion to try to rescue women from those feelings. Oh, come on. It's not that bad. Some people have it so much worse. Come on, pick yourself up. It's come on, you can think about things in a better way. And the
yeah.
forced positivity and the forced pushing through, I think creates a narrative that I shouldn't be feeling this way. There's so many things and so many reasons why I shouldn't. And so it's almost like we're gaslighting ourselves around
Mm,
these very real emotions, which I mean, because you and I are talking, just sounds ridiculous. But I'm going to
mm,
venture a guess that maybe you've done it. I know I've done it. You see, so I think if we can't control for other people and we can't control for society or planet Earth, but what we can do is give ourselves a little bit more grace to acknowledge that when we're feeling certain things, to not immediately say, this is wrong, or I'm afraid of what other
yeah.
people will think for what I'm feeling. Like giving yourself that space to say, I'm not feeling my best. I'm not going through a confident season right now. And that's okay. Recognizing that I have to go through this and feel it in order to get to the other side. And recognizing that perhaps there's something to be learned because I know I can speak from personal experience. The obsession to trying to get to the other side or maybe around it to get to the other side has everything to do with this palpable fear of how much longer do I have to sit through this? I don't want to feel
Yeah.
this way. And
Mm,
I get it. We're in a culture that you can order something on Amazon, have it to you in the afternoon if you order in the
yeah.
morning. So we're
Hmm.
patient. That's a
Yeah.
society right now. And it's uncomfortable to sit through the uncertainty of that discomfort. I think we're so hardwired to want to know when can this end so I know this part will be over. Yeah.
So I want to give them more advice too about what to do in these low moments. I
Yes.
really love that you're starting with sit with it.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. Expect it, sit with it,
Mhm.
allow it to move through you.
Yeah.
I would love a couple more tips from you
Yeah.
on what that can look like. But also, can we paint it with one of the contributors to these low moments,
Mhm.
which you've already mentioned the inner critic flaring up, that comparison voice, self censorship, maybe losing your voice, not feeling like you belong very much. But the thing you brought up earlier that I can't stop thinking about is how our circumstances
Mhm.
have a big play in those feelings and those things happening. So let's hear more from you about
Mhm.
how to move through these low
Yeah.
moments. But can you paint that for us
Yeah.
with your own circumstance?
Absolutely.
Like as a coach who helps a lot of women with confidence,
Mhm.
I'm betting you, even you, have the valleys, have the low moments. So
All the
can you
time.
tell us how a circumstance led to a valley, a low moment, and what you've
Absolutely.
actually done to move through it?
Absolutely. So I'll use an example of going through relationships, which is something I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. And going through a particular low moment of when a relationship is not going well, is causing
Mm,
you a ton of anxiety. It's causing you a tremendous amount of self doubt. And maybe let's paint a picture of someone who is unfortunately getting wrapped up in perhaps someone else's drama and they're finding themselves obsessively trying to like rescue and fix and people please. Those details for someone in a relationship that, let's be honest, is probably not the best situation for them is not going to help their confidence. And so painting the picture of someone being in a relationship that just is not serving them and their confidence is just taking hit after hit. The advice that I would give to someone like that is when was the last time you really got still with yourself? When was the last time that you actually took some time to intentionally reflect. Now, does that look like maybe taking a trip or getting away? I'm not always advocating for run away from it all, but maybe that's something that would work for you. Or allowing yourself to confidently communicate a boundary where that dynamic isn't helping your confidence and you need to create some distance between that person. Because I think one of the hardest things in terms of like circumstances that will have an impact on your confidence is that you get so caught up in the doing of that circumstance and trying to fix the situation that you become so other focused that in the process you lose sight of who you
Mm,
are. You lose that sense of
okay.
connection to who you are. And so, what I oftentimes will tell women who may be in circumstances that sound like this to really make sure that they're connecting with the truth of who they are and the truth of what's really happening. If
Okay.
you were in a situation, say in a relationship dynamic that I just explained, you might find yourself feeling like you need to do more to make the situation get better. And
Yeah.
no, you actually have to turn inward, the complete opposite
Okay.
direction, not focused on the other person. Whether it be journaling, whether it be taking some time to meditate, or anything that's going to help you get grounded and rooted in who you are, it is just, it is always baffling to me that the very thing that we all have access to do, no matter where we are in the world, is free. We can just
Journaling.
turn to ourselves. Exactly.
Well,
Just
I
sit
can
with
say why,
it.
because it's not
It's
fun.
not
You're
fun.
talking to a one liner, a journal a day, where I'm like, that's good enough. I don't want to relive it. But yes,
Yeah. I mean,
it's free. It's there.
there's a ton of other options and approaches to do it. Maybe you're a voice note person. Maybe you want to just write
Oh,
it in
yeah.
your cell phone, in the notes
Hmm.
app. Just finding ways to document where you
Yeah.
are without judgment, without shame. Like I can acknowledge
Okay.
that I'm in this space right now and I don't think that this is the best version of myself. And here are the reasons why. And I'm going to give myself grace to feel this right now and acknowledge that this isn't where I want to be, say 6 months from now or a year from now. I know that if I take really honest inventory of the things that are causing me distress and upset and anxiety, and really are just like making that hit to my confidence, that I know that there's probably one small step that I can take to make this situation a little
Okay.
easier, a little better. What can I do? And really, to make it, to break this down to be as simple as possible, because we all love simple. If it's too complex, we're not going to do it. So I'm not advocating, okay, everyone's got to write in a journal and make sure you're writing every day. Ask yourself one fundamental question that I think women don't ask themselves enough. What do I need right now?
Mm,
What would
yeah.
feel so incredibly nurturing and soothing that would just be for me?
Yeah.
And I think the more that we ask ourselves that honestly, if we're asking our current adult self or our teenage self or our little child version self, you get to realize that there is a real practice of being able to be more nurturing to yourself without needing it to be so focused on other people. And the
Hmm.
same question could be asked if you're in a situation at work that's beating your confidence. If there are circumstances with people around you, I mean, it's about getting that stillness away from the circumstances to get quiet enough to hear the answer.
As these things go, the answer is both simple and complex.
Totally.
Insecurity seems more like a loss of connection to
Mhm.
yourself, and to gain back that confidence, it's about what can I do to reconnect,
Right.
whether it's responding to my needs better, taking the time to be still, to
Mhm.
process my emotions, to also validate my circumstances for what they are, because that seems really important too. I wish there was an A to Z answer.
I wish there was too. I mean,
Yeah.
a number of times I get asked by women, like, can you just give me like a couple of tips of how to just get more confident? That would be great. I said, if I had that, do you think I would be hoarding it? I would share it
Yeah.
with the entire world.
Yeah.
I'm not the person who's going to say confidence means this because it means so many different things to different people. And
Hmm.
when we think of circumstances, I think about the pandemic and how so much was out of our control. And
Yeah.
I'm never someone who's going to subscribe to toxic positivity. And I never suggest it to my clients of like, come on. And then I think about those moments in the pandemic and just what we're talking about today about being able to be kind enough to yourself to meet you where you're at. And
Mm.
maybe there was some shifts for many of us around our waistline or the way we looked or the way we felt or
Yeah.
different things that went through. I would oftentimes find myself during those early days of the pandemic where we couldn't really go anywhere. I was scared to even walk on the street at times, thinking like, what's happening? What is this
Yeah,
really?
we just didn't know.
Didn't know. And it was so much
Mhm.
uncertainty. There was never a moment like that in my life where I felt so firmly planted in the now and to be able to access gratitude. Like I was grateful to be able to walk outside. I was grateful to be
Yeah.
able to take in these tiny joys. And I would oftentimes say, look, there was so much sadness and so much anxiety and so much panic that you had to work diligently with your mindset to be appreciative of those things. So I would say this has been a practice that I've gone back to quite a bit is having some kind of daily ritual or connection to gratitude. Is I launched my company in 2020, my coaching practice Enough Labs. And I thought this decade was going to
Hmm.
be like the decade to change everything. Come to find out the universe and world had different. And as I thought about it, and the more I worked with women and was having conversations around this, I named it Enough Labs because I was constantly hearing women say things like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not disciplined enough. Whatever
Mm.
qualifier before enough was going to come. And it's been almost 5 years now that I've been in doing this work that has felt like my
Mhm.
life's calling. And I mention this because when we're committed to it, a story that says we're not good enough or blank enough, we're constantly viewing ourselves through a filter of lack, what we still have to
Mm.
work on. So if you don't like the shape of your body, you're saying, I'm not thin enough and or I'm not this enough. Whatever your circumstances are that you're chasing that space of lack. And what I oftentimes try to reframe to the women I work with is to say, but where are you so much more than enough? Where are things going
Mm.
really well? Can you acknowledge where perhaps there's some milestone that you're trying to reach at work, but where can you point to the evidence of where you are just naturally killing it? And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we get so caught up, and this is very much connected to our brains, but we get so caught up in the lack and the things that we still have to do that we forget about the evidence where we can point to that we're doing a fantastic job. And
Yeah.
there's a space that I think a lot of women fall into of thinking, you know, they're so attached to wanting to improve. And like I said, I can put myself in that category too. I think self development at times has become like this endless chase. It's like, I am the forever
For sure.
DIY project. No, I oftentimes will tell people, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you or something that needs to be fixed. There's things that you want to address, improve for the reasons that are important to you. And you don't need to defend that to anyone. But let's not miss the moment to practice that gratitude and actually say, like, there are areas that I can be really proudest.
There's so much compassion interwoven with everything you've taught us today. So I think that's a beautiful thing for us to end on, and it's
Yeah.
validating those moments where we recognize we are enough, we have enough, anything where we are shifting from that place of lack to it's enough.
Absolutely.
So with this, I want to send people the right direction, and then we'll end with our final question.
Yeah.
Where do you want people to go who are interested in learning more from you?
Yeah. If you're interested in learning more about Enough Labs, you can head to our website, which is www.enouughlabs.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Enough Labs, where you can see all of the ways that we are having a fantastic conversation about celebrating our enoughness. And really, my big piece is on learning perfectionism and people pleasing.
You're speaking to the right audience
I thought so.
because that's what we're about. Okay,
Exactly.
let's end with the final question. And it's, what is one small way women can take action on what they learned starting today?
I would say one small action that you can take from today's conversation is to make a list and have it be your top three. before you hit the pillow tonight of 3 things that you are insanely proud of that you did just for today,
Mm,
to connect with all of the things that you showed up for, poured into, maybe sidestep certain things for, and to really acknowledge yourself for the ways that things went really well or that you were really
maybe you will shift me from being a one-line journaler if I do this, because this seems better. This seems like a
proud.
good thing for me. So I'm
Well,
so grateful you would give us that tip.
I actually give this exercise to a lot of my clients, and I tell them to keep like a mason jar or a jar of some sort and have
Yeah.
little pieces of paper next to your bed, whether it's 1 a day or 3 a day, and just drop those in for as long as you want. And there you are building this evidence jar of all these
Yes.
things that are working really well. And how amazing would it be to look at that after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year,
Mm-hmm.
to say, wow, I've had a lot of really good moments because we forget.
Yeah, I can see like each of those paper strips like almost acting as fillers to the cracks in that foundation, right? They're
Absolutely.
just that way to just say, no, this is who I am and this is what is enough about me and what I'm doing. Wow, Dina, this has been so needed. I appreciate you, your time. Thanks for being on the
Should
show.
you? Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. Thank you.
That was really fun,
Oh,
honestly. I
so
learned a
fun.
great deal.
I'm
Let
so
me stop
glad.
that.